Hey everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we have today is another offering from Valaverse. We have this, the Valaverse Action Force Wasp Raider. And truthfully, friends, I don't know why I bought this. The Wasp Raider is a BotCon exclusive. It was an exclusive for the 2021 BotCon convention. I didn't go. I don't even know if they actually had this at the convention. You were able to order it through the convention website, and it's basically just a repaint of the Swarm figure that came out for Action Force. And it's not, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against the Swarm, but I'm not going to be getting the Swarm figures because whenever I see this, what I actually see is this. So we have the Wasp Raider, which is, like I said, a repaint of the Swarm figure, but it also comes with the winged jetpack that you have to buy as a separate accessory pack for the Swarm figure. So the Wasp Raider is a green version of the Swarm figure with all of the accessories and all the bits and bobs that you would want to have with the Swarm figure. So we see that we have our Valaverse packaging. Once again, very simple, very stark, just lets the figure speak for itself. Action Force, Wasp Raider, Valaverse down here on the side. Over here we have Action Force and the Action Force logo, and you can see it says BotCon exclusive. Over here we have some artwork of the Wasp Raider, and it says Series 1, Figure 7. And if you remember on the Sergeant Slaughter video we did, that Slaughter was 6, and the Wasp Raider isn't on here anywhere, so he was just added in to the line. Like, you can even see the Swarm Trooper up here is basically the same artwork as well. He has his file card on the back. Once again, I love these file cards. Up top, we got the window to let light in, Valaverse and BotCon, Action Force, warning, choking hazards. On the bottom, legalese, barcode. So that's what we have for the box. So let's get this open, and let's take a look at what we have inside and see if I'm going to have buyer's regret. Okay, friends, here he is, our Wasp Raider out of the box, and the first thing we'll do is we'll put the tape measure to him, we'll see how he stacks up, and he comes in at just over 6.5 inches tall, and that puts him on par with Sergeant Slaughter, which is the only other Action Force figure that we've seen, but it's probably also going to put him on par with the G.I. Joe figures and other Marvel or Hasbro figures. We'll take a look at that in comparisons later in the video. But first, let's get a better look at this guy. Let's bring him closer. Let's look at the articulation. Let's look at the sculpt. Let's look at the paint. And let's talk about our Wasp Raider. Okay, we're going to be looking at articulation first on our boy here, and remember what I said when we looked at Sergeant Slaughter, that Bobby Valaverse got ahead of it, that the joints on these figures may be stiff from shipping, from temperature fluctuations in the container, and his joints were a little stiff, much stiffer than Sarge's, and I ran them under some hot water. I tried to loosen them up. They still might be a little sticky for the purposes of this video, but remember, this is a situation that we were made aware of. We know this is happening. We know how to take care of it. So starting at the head, he can't really look up, which is a shame. Whoa, wait, there we go. Okay, see what I mean? I didn't even realize that was sticking. So he can look up. He can look way up, actually. That's real good for a flying figure. All right. He can look down. His head will do a full 360. Little bit of tilt, not nearly as much as Sarge had. Now his arms. His arms at first I thought were sticking when they stopped right there. I thought, man, that has to be stuck, so I kept applying water, I kept applying heat, but it's not, because I don't know if you're going to be able to see on camera, but you see this little lip right here on his shoulder pad? It's not slipping underneath, and what it's doing is it's hitting the ring of the butterfly joint here, and it's physically being stopped from raising any higher than that. You can even see when you bring it forward that the only reason it moves more forward and more back is because it's a butterfly joint. But as soon as you move it back to this position, that's all the higher you can bring his arms, so you can't get them up to 90. They do a full 360 spin. As you saw, they do have the butterfly joint to move it back and forth. He has double jointed elbows. And you saw right there, he has a bicep swivel. Wrists twist, and his fists pivot in and out. We'll see with his other hands that his trigger hands will go up and down. Now he has a real good ab crunch right here, that he can go back, he can go forward, he can twist at the ab crunch. Oh, hear that? Yep, it's a little stiff. He can twist at the ab crunch, but he also has a ball joint at the waist that he can get a little bit of twist right there. And he can really crank forward, and he can really crank back when you put it in conjunction with the waist. Now, I don't know if these are supposed to be drop-down legs. I don't think Sarge had drop-down legs, but these kind of come down a little bit. Get your arm out of there, buddy. And then his leg will come out to the side like that. He has a thigh swivel right here that is really well hidden by this thigh pad right here. That looks really good. Double jointed knees that, for as chunky as these legs are, have some really good travel to them. No boot cut, which I was surprised and a little disappointed in. I really thought that there was going to be something cut in the boot right here, but I guess they didn't want to break up the sculpt. The ankles twist, though, and they rock back, they rock forward, and they have a forward-facing pin for some rock. And that's what we have for the articulation, pretty much on par with Sarge, minus this boot cut. So taking a look at this again, if you move the web gear out of the way, his legs kind of shift down, but they're not full-on drop-down legs like the G.I. Joe figures have. They just shift down a little, I think, so you can get some more side articulation out of them. Because if you don't, they kind of stop right about there. Okay, now looking at the sculpt and the paint app on this guy, first thing I want to draw attention to is look at these lenses on his eyes. While I'm not real big on the whole insect motif for these things, I think they leaned a little too heavily into it. I do love the coloring, the two-tone coloring, and just how good the lenses of the bug eyes look. The sculpt for the helmet is fairly well done. I like that. It's smoother than I was expecting. I thought there was going to be more dramatic lines in the helmet, and especially with what I guess are supposed to be the mandibles down here. This is just a piece of rubber. It's a vest. I don't believe you can take it off. Oh, look at that. You can. Hold on. Okay. So then if you pop the head off, you can take this off. And I don't have any other Valaverse figures, but I can tell from photos that this is basically their generic soldier body. And it's reuse, and there's nothing wrong with that. All of the big companies do that. So they send out these vests as a way to dress up the figure a little. Let's get these back in there. It's going to be difficult. 1 second. Okay, I got it back on. It took way longer than it should have. I think one of the problems is that this plastic is too soft. It doesn't hold form, and the pegs on the straps were too small. So every time you'd try and work the peg into the hole would stretch out a little bit, and before it closed back down, the peg would pop back out. My advice, if you have one of these, or a swarm figure, don't take the vest off. Now, continuing where we were. The sculpting on the arms, it's very chunky, it's very like power armory. I like that. You have this loose belt down here, which is his web gear. He has the sheath for his knife, which we'll take a look at in a second. And it comes down under his legs through the crotch. We saw the armor, and the boots are fantastic, honestly. Like, the boots are really fantastic. Like, if you weren't collecting Action Force and you're a Marvel Legends collector, this could be used as a decent adversary for Iron Man, just by the look of him, and with the accessories we'll be taking a look at soon. And the painting, I know it's probably not showing up on the camera, but this metallic green that they use, this paint, there's a little bit of swirlies, there's a little bit of sparkle in there, and up in the helmet, even a little bit in the vest, so that everything color matches, and the legs as well, so it has this, like, this scintillating green-yellow look going to it, because I think that's what there are some yellow flakes in the armor, even where there's green paint, so that you always have like this undercoating of the yellow that matches up with it. And on the bottom here, I love this. You have your honeycomb symbol right here, and we'll see that again on the wings. But down here, they even sculpted it into the bottom of the combat boots, which I love. This is a great attention to detail right there. So the sculpt on this thing, the sculpt on this guy is fantastic. Like I said, torso is reused. It's their standard soldier buck with the vest over top of it. Don't take the vest off. Really love this helmet. Really, really love this helmet. And the helmet does pop off, but I don't think that ball joint is the same size as a Joe. I'm not sure. So, like, we couldn't put, like, an unhelmeted head on that guy, but we might be able to find something. We'll take a look at that later. But I really like, despite what I said about seeing the Monarch and his troops, this is a really, really fine sculpt for an armored assault figure like this. One other thing I missed with the articulation, and I didn't even realize it until I was trying to put the vest back on, because I ran it under some hot water to get it to expand, put the clips in, and then I popped it in the freezer so they contracted and locked it in place. That's what I had to do to get this back on. But when I was running it under hot water and I loosened some things up, he has some really good side-to-side rocker too, thanks to that ball joint and that ab crunch he has in there. Our Wasp Raider comes standard with a pair of clenched fists. He has a pair of standard gripping hands as well. He has a pair of trigger hands for his weapons, which we'll take a look at in a minute. And he has these curved cradling hands that we saw with Sarge the first time that do a really good job of like cradling the barrel of the rifle. And we'll take a look at that whenever you see the photos later. But I really like the additions to these hands. I kind of wish other war-based or military-based figures would include a set of hands like this. Okay, the first accessory we're going to look at here is this little knife that he has. There you can see there's some serration on the back of the blade, and even though it was all molded in black, I really like how they hit some silver along the edge of the blade, making it look sharp, giving it a shine. I really like that. And then this little guy, you see our Wasp Raider, Swarm Trooper, whatever you want to call him, has this little copper sheath back here. And that fits in just like that on the back of his web gear. It's a nice fit. The next one we have is this pistol right here, that at first I thought this was supposed to be some sort of modified Desert Eagle, but the more that I look at it, I think this is something that Valaverse came up with on their own, that it looks appropriately futuristic, a little bit sci-fi, but it still has like that realism, like you could believe that this is a real weapon. And just like the knife that fits in the back, our Wasp Raider, our Swarm Trooper, has this hip holster right here. Let's get his arm up out of the way. That it just fits in right there like that. And that looks good. Holstered on his hip, especially like how it's sort of on the metal plate right there. So that looks real good. And then we have his main weapon right here, which is this assault rifle. And we've seen this before because we actually got this version of it with that weapons pack that we got with Sergeant Slaughter. And just like I said whenever we opened this up with Sarge, as cool of a design as I think this is, I don't think this is a real-world weapon. Once again, I think this is something that Valaverse made up. This doesn't look familiar to me at all, but if you know differently, feel free to let me know in the comments below. This one, I believe this one was originally made for the Swarm Troopers, and then they just threw it in with the accessory pack, just so you had a few more. But with this, I really like how the main body is black, and then they hit it with that metallic green, that same sparkly metallic green that the figure itself is made with. Now, the only issue I have with it is this type of handle, how it's sort of closed off. It's kind of a pain to get it into his hand. And that's not just Valaverse, that's any figure line that has a closed handle weapon like that. And of course, now that I'm on camera, it's going to fit in there perfectly. But you see now, we have this cradled hand, and we have our rifle, and you can see how that hand just perfectly cradles the weapon. And that looks so good. That looks so good. Man, I'm just going to say it, I really wish my Joes came with Came with a set of hands like that. Now, he doesn't come with blast effects, but you can see that he has that hole on the end. So if we take one of the blast effects that we got with the weapons pack, you can see that... Get in there. Come on. Can't see it. There we go. You can see that it can take a blast effect to it. So those will work. And I believe Valaverse right now is actually selling packs of blast effects for like $3 a box, and you get 3 different blast effects with it. So that's something to take a look at too. And then, of course, we have his jetpack, and remember when I said they lean a little too heavily into the insect motif for my liking? Wow, man, look at this. Now, I do appreciate that the wings are actually articulated, so they can move up and down, so you can put them into different flying positions. I appreciate that. I also really dig this translucent plastic that they're using on the wings to give it that membrane look, and you can still see like that honeycomb motif going through it. They also two-toned the stinger of the thorax down here, and I don't know if that's supposed to be like the engine, the jet exhaust coming out, or if that's miscolored from the jet exhaust, but that looks really cool. I mean, there's some really good detail work in this, and I do like the yellow and black sort of stinger paint job done to it. The jetpack looks cool. The jetpack looks real good, don't get me wrong. It's just like I said, it's a little too heavy on the insect motif for my liking. On the inside here on the back, the part that would be pressed against the figure, they went ahead and put some more detail on there, and I really like that. And you can see it just uses a peg, but you can see that there's this indentation here in the pack. That's because when we take a look at our Wasp Raider, Swarm Trooper, whatever you want to call him, you can see that there's this part that juts out from the back of his vest. And that is because when you put this on and you get it down into the peg hole, it makes a perfect fit in there. Like the vest and the jetpack are all one piece. And that does complete the look of the figure. Like, after watching this, if you ordered some Swarm figures and didn't order the jetpack, the wing pack with it, you're probably going to want to now. Because it does look really good. There he is with the wings out. And there he is with the wings up. And you can get some good looks out of him. Don't get me wrong. You can get some really cool looks going on here. It's just the insect thing. Let's see what this cocoon can do. Okay. So there's all of our accessories for our Swarm Trooper. And there's our Wasp Raider. And that's a complete look. That actually looks really good. I just noticed that and that are color matched, that they put the stripes on there as straps on the armor padding, and it matches up with the coloring of the jetpack. I also like how the jetpack kind of covers the sheath of the knife back there. So this looks really good. And finally, we have the figure stand that comes with the Wasp Raider. Now, this is the same figure stand that came with Sarge, and it's the same figure stand that's going to come with the other Action Force figures. It's just, as you can see, it's in a very bright yellow to color match the figure. And turning it down, we can see it has the 4 foot pegs, so you can position the figure anywhere you want on here. And it has this groove cutting back, so that if you don't keep the box and you cut the file card out, you can stack the file card in the back of the figure stand, so that whenever the figure is on it and then the card is behind it and everything you have is displayed right there. I do really like including a stand with this, and I do really like the functionality of the stand being able to put the file card back in there. Okay, for size comparisons, I only have one other Action Force figure from Valaverse, and that's Sarge over here. And I also sized him up next to a Cobra Trooper, because truthfully that's probably where he's going to be living most of his life, is in the ranks of Cobra. He's a little bit taller than the Cobra Troopers, but I'm okay with that when you consider that our Wasp Raider here is a guy in a suit, in a powered armored flight suit. Here he is next to Hasbro Marvel Legends, Captain Marvel, and Psylocke from the Nimrod 3-pack. Here he is next to Lanyard Toys, City Hunter Predator, and Xenomorph Drone. And just because I had them out, here he is beside McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Wonder Woman Last Night on Earth with the Helmet of Fate, and Azrael. And finally, as always, here he is next to Wicked Cool Toys, Spartan Collection, Master Chief, and Cat. Kind of on the same scale as an ODST right there. So do I have buyer's regret with this figure? only to the point that I still don't completely know why I bought him. The only thing I can think is that I saw exclusive on there and FOMO set in and I jumped on the website and I bought it. Because to be completely honest, I had never even heard of BotCon until I bought this figure. I didn't even know what BotCon was until I went to the BotCon webpage and bought this guy. Like I kept saying, he leans a little too heavily into the whole bug motif for my liking. That's the same issue I have with the Swarm Trooper, and that's pretty much the same issue I'm going to have with the Scarab. I'm also disappointed that the arms only come up to about that downward 45-degree angle, that they can't come up to a full 90. However, I do have to admit that the sculpt and the paint job on this guy are pretty sweet. And I still maintain that once he's a complete figure with his full armor on, with his jetpack on, with his weapons in hand, that even if you get something like this and you just want to put him against, I don't know, Iron Man or War Machine, he would be a really good adversary for some of your Marvel Legends. He's going to fit in well with Cobra because that's honestly probably where he's going to live most of his life, is on the shelf with the Joes. So it's a good figure. And I can totally see some people like really digging this thing, or the Swarm Trooper. But for me, it's just too much bug. As cool as that jetpack is, it's just too much bug. Micronauts. Holy crap, it just hit me. That's what he reminds me of. The little insect-themed Micronauts that I had in the 80s when I was a kid. With all of that, though, getting past the whole bug look, he does have a really cool sculpt to him. He does have a really good paint job to him. I really like the translucent blue on the wings. The eye lenses on the helmet are really, really, really on point. I really like the whole aesthetic to him, the coloring, everything. I don't know, it's just the overall presentation of him just isn't my bag. But let me know what you think. I have no doubt that there are going to be a lot of people that really dig this figure. And if you're one of them, I'm happy. I really am, because I think there's a lot of potential with Valaverse. I think there's some really cool stuff that's going to be coming out of the line. We have a lot more to take a look at past this, and hopefully the rest of the Valaverse figures will be shipping out. The Steel Brigade figure, the one figure that I ordered from Big Bad Toy Store, still hasn't shipped. Hasn't even been shifted into my pile of loot yet. That's kind of the thing that I'm waiting on. I really want to get my hands on that Steel Brigade figure. So hopefully he'll be coming soon. And once he gets there, we will take a look at him. So until that happens, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.